Yo, what is up, Goon Squad? So I am back on the Pokemon FireRed grind, looking for that shiny Charmander. And I want to talk about something that's been kind of appearing on my Twitter timeline recently. And it's a conversation that comes up every now and then, but I just kind of want to just yap about it. This is my yapping channel. I get to yap here. I yap about my thoughts. And the thing that a lot of people are talking about right now is... Hold on. Alright, reset. Okay, I have a counter on my phone, by the way. That's how I'm keeping track this time. But conversation is about how women in the content creator space are treated, right? And I think it's a very interesting conversation. Like I mentioned kind of like a bit earlier. It's one that's like, or I don't know if I actually mentioned it or not, but like it's one that comes up every now and then. Like it's a reoccurring thing where basically it's tied to like, oh, this one content creator. Dude, I think I already lost count of what my Charmander counts at. Whatever. It's basically tied to like one content creator does like something, like some big content creator does some like thing that's misogynistic, right? Or he says something that's like messed up, and then it becomes like kind of like a thing. Or like maybe there's an SMP that like, you know, you look at the roster and they're like, oh, it's a lot of men, but like there's no women. That's interesting. Like that's an interesting observation that I am making. How peculiar. And that's usually where like that type of stuff originates from. Dude, I cannot count during the video, by the way. I'm thinking about it. I don't think I'm capable of counting like and resetting at the same time and talking. I think it's too many steps. But for this particular conversation, right? The one that I saw that I think kind of like started this off, or not started it off, but like one that I saw was like pretty big, is that this guy was using the term Foid. That's F-O-I-D. So I don't know what that is. Well, I didn't know what that was, right? So I looked it up afterwards to see like, oh, okay, what are they like, what did he say? Like, what does this term mean? Apparently, Foid is like the 4chan post that I saw that like apparently originated it, at least according to Reddit, was like some guy who was talking about he no longer sees women as like actual like people. So he just calls them Foids. And that's like peak incel behavior. I had forgotten the word for a second. I was about to say incest. Peak incest behavior. Peak incel behavior right there. Because like you have to be a big fucking loser to like call someone a Foid or to say something like that. Like straight up, like sorry if you had to find out this way, but you are if that's the thing you do. And the guy like made an apology. He's like, I didn't know what the word meant. I don't know the context of how he said it. So I don't know if he's like being dead ass or genuine or like what it was that led up to it. Cause like if you just use like the terminology, right? You just use the term without like any knowledge, then it's like, okay, I mean, you're on thin ice, buddy, but all right. But if he used it referring to women anyway, like if I say like I don't know, there isn't like an equivalent, is there? Like there isn't an equivalent. I'm trying to think about like a context of like where it's like, okay, I can see how you mess up, right? But if he's specifically referring to women in the conversation, calling them Foid, it's like what's the joke? What's the bit? You know what I mean? Like in the first place, like even if you don't know what the term means, like what's the bit then? It's very, very odd. Like if I just like throw out the word chud, right? Like chud is like, from my understanding, it's like some guy who just doesn't get any play, right? But if I'm just throwing that out there, that's like, Dude, I'm so bad at typing and shiny hunting. Talking and shiny hunting. I'm so bad at it. I get lost in thought. I don't know. Something about like spamming the same buttons and trying to do it as quick as possible, like actually messes up my talking so badly. I don't know what it is. It just does. And also the counter. I'm getting rid of the counter. I can't count while doing this. Just straight up, I can't do this. It's too many. It's too many steps. Still going to anyway for this one. So far I'm at 9. I don't know if someone's counting with me. Am I right? Am I at 9? I'll count back when I like watch the recording, I guess, but I don't know, like let me know. I started counting the other videos to see if they were like on the right number. But yeah. But no, yeah, this guy he apologized, and like what's kind of weird to me, right? Is like there's almost this like energy of like, oh dude, this guy, like, congratulations, dude. Like this guy's base, this guy's awesome and all that stuff. And I don't think that like being like not a piece of shit and using that terminology is really like worthy of that type of praise. You know what I mean? There's more like that example is like he's apologizing, so it's like, oh, at least he's apologizing, at least he's like saying, oh yeah, my bad, sorry, I didn't know what the terminology meant. But there's like some where like, for example, someone's like, dude, we need to stand up for women, and like that's a good thing to say, like based true. But then like people in the comments, they feel like it feels like it gets like overly glazeful in there. Is that a term? I don't know, I invented it. It feels like it's like, okay, yeah, he's just being a normal guy. He's being a completely normal dude. Like the amount of like glaze that they get afterwards is like too much. And you're just like, oh, thank God, finally someone is bringing this up. When it's like, okay, first of all, like people have been bringing it up in the past. Like I just reset by mistake. Do I count that as an attempt? I pressed the button by mistake. Yeah, whatever. I don't think I'll count that as an attempt, but in our minds, we can assume that that one would have been a loss too, though. Because we know it wouldn't have been a dub. I know for a fact that wouldn't have been the one. But, yeah. But it feels like so, like, congratulatory. You know, it's like, oh, congrats on this guy for saying that stuff and, like, being normal. And I don't know, it just doesn't, it feels like one of those things where it's like, you don't really need to say something to that guy. Or, like, say, like, yeah, dude. Thumbs up. You're a good guy, dude. Like he is. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Like it's a good thing. It's a good thing. But it feels weird to say it. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. Just for someone being like not a piece of shit. Like some other like misogynistic or like by extension like extending this type of conversation where people are like excluded from events. Because this I don't think I've like actually formed a full thought. This like controversy, this recent one, is about the lack of like representation in events that exist and in like things like that. So that kind of extends also to like, you know, people of color and basically anyone that isn't like a cis male, basically, essentially. Like the space is very much dominated by that, like those people. So that's where kind of like this like main discussion comes from, and it extends to like other groups as well. So I don't know, it just feels kind of weird like whenever there's like this like thank you for saying this, thank you for being a guy who's like saying this stuff, thank you for being a guy who's like doing the right thing. Like it feels odd. It feels odd. And like don't get me wrong, like it's not necessarily either. Am I making any sense? am I making sense here? I don't know. I'm not sure. Because like I want to be clear that it's not like one of those things where I'm like, oh no, God forbid you told this guy that he's doing a good thing, because he is. Like, so it's like saying it. Does this make sense? Does this make sense? Like saying it isn't bad. But also, it just feels like kind of like, is it really necessary? I don't know. As in saying like thanking the guy for being normal and like pointing out like this type of stuff and these things. You're saying things like, oh, thank God finally someone's talking about it when it's been a talking point for like a while now. Or like One thing I don't like, and like, I don't think it's a bad thing that someone does this. I want to be very clear about it, but it feels like kind of performative to me in a way, even if it isn't. Don't get me wrong. I completely understand the intentions behind it, but it feels kind of like performative. Is when they post like, oh, women creators are cool, right? They'll post that and they'll be like, here's a thread of like a bunch of them. And don't get me wrong, like the people that they put under there are like really cool people. I like a lot of the ones I've seen, I'm like, I recognize that person. That's true. That this one from thread is true, and I'm sure like all those creators are fantastic. But for me, it feels like when you're just like doing a thread of like, oh, here are the creators you should follow, and you do like a list of like 100 creators, it's like I like where your mind is at. I like your thought process, and it's not a bad thing. I want to be very clear about this. It's not a bad thing that they're doing, but it just feels like kind of like by highlighting so many like creators, I feel like you're almost like highlighting none of them. You know, like, does that make sense? Because it's so many like that you're presenting, so many that you're saying like, oh, this person, this person, this person, this person, this person. I don't know how many people actually end up even like going to those channels afterwards. I think that the best way to do it, and this is where I kind of like come to the point of the conversation where I'm like, what I think should be the way that things should be done, is more about not just like making some tweet. And making a tweet is fine. Like, I want to be very clear, because I don't want to be like on the, not on the bad side of this discussion, but I want to be like very clear that on this is what I mean. Like, I want to have like clarity on this, and not be like misunderstood. I think that the best way to highlight like women in the space and like people like who basically aren't like cis males and cis men is to just collaborate with them, to just bring them on and to just talk to them as if they're like normal people, which, shocker, they are, by the way. I think that's just like the way to do it, you know? Like, bring them on the stream, off stream, talk to like actual women. And you could tell like a lot of the people online don't really do that. They don't necessarily do that. And I don't know, it's just kind of odd. And I feel like in the content creation space in general, especially if you look in the comment sections and stuff, like, there's always a bunch of like hate or like misogynistic or like sexist comments that like go towards like women, or like, for example, when like they're referred to, like, especially if it's like a larger creator, they'll sometimes like lump them as like, oh, blank's girlfriend or whatever, or they'll be like overly criticized for something that like maybe like a guy would do, right? It's stuff like that you kind of just see, and it exists. And the reason why I'm talking about it in this video, just, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier. One, because it's just my yap channel. I yap about what's on my mind. And two, is just to highlight like that, like, last part about what I kind of mentioned about what, misinput, about what I think like should be done, which is just to actually collaborate and talk to these individuals, you know? And to like make them involved in like the things that like bigger creators do. Obviously, I'm not in the place for that anyway. Like, chat, I get 100 views on a good day. All right. So like it's not, unfortunately, I wish it kind of was, but it's not up to me to like, you know, do that type of stuff on like the bigger scale. On the smaller scale, like, you know, I interact with a bunch of people. I like talk to people and all that stuff. But it's like those larger creators are the ones that need to like kind of step up and like be better when it comes to like including people of all, like, you know, of all types, basically. Like, not just women in this, like, in this conversation, the focus is about women, but not just women as well. Like, other, like, groups, other stuff like that. Dude, it's so bad. I'm so bad at talking while doing this. I'm sorry, I keep on like bringing it up. I feel like I hope my point is getting across, but I can so see how it definitely maybe isn't. And how maybe it's gonna be like, wow, this Kenj guy? It's a fucking asshole. What the fuck is this guy talking about? So I hope that I've been like somewhat clear, even though like I'm like trying to do this and not mess up, and also like yap about what's on my mind. But yeah, no. The thing is, like, I've also like kind of seen it. The way that like women are kind of treated on like streams and YouTube comment sections, like more firsthand, where people will just like kind of like slide into like DMs. They'll be like weird. They'll be saying things like I don't know. It's just odd. It's just odd the way they're treated. And the grand, like, a majority of the cases, this is like stuff that only happened to like women really in the space. It can obviously happen to like anyone, obviously, of course, but the grand majority of cases, you know, the grand majority of times, and the only times I've ever like seen it, at least like publicly, has been that, you know, or not publicly, sorry, between people that I know, has been towards like women, very few times towards men. I know that it does happen. And the reason why I'm just kind of iterating that is I don't want to discredit that. Like, in the attempt to credit something else and to, like, bring something up, I don't want to bring something else down, you know what I mean? Because that's just, like, what's the point? Why would I do that? You know? But yeah. I hope that makes sense. I hope what I've said makes kind of, like, sense, you know what I mean? Because yeah. If what I'm saying, like, comes off as, like, kind of, like, disconnected, or, like, you're like, huh? What do you mean? Huh? What do you mean by that? What? I'm sorry. It's my first video back in a while. I'm, like, running on, like, maybe, like, 3 hours of sleep right now. So, I could imagine how, like, I might be, like, super incoherent, or, like, one of my points, like, comes across, like, badly. If there's any confusion about something I said, you can, like, just let me know in the comments, and then I'll clarify what I kind of mean. But I'll kind of like sum it up. Everything that like this discussion. Ah, crap! I didn't mean to press that. Women should be included more in like the actual content creation space, and treated better by like the fellow men around. Duh. And that's really it. TVH. That's like the main summary of it. Alright, guys. I'm gonna cut it off at this Charmander. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. This is the last Charmander ever. Let's see what the Charmander is. This should be attempt number 26. I'm gonna recount later. You'll see in the description how far off I was. I still haven't counted the final amount, but the reason why I said 26 there is probably way more than it actually was, is because my grandma walked in at some point during the recording, and that part, I didn't think you could hear her, so I just kept on yapping. You kind of could in the background, so I just cut that entire part out. So it was like a cut at some point. That's what it was. It was like towards the end, after nearest the end, but yeah. Just want to let you guys know I didn't count that much off. You'll find out how much it is. I'll count the amount that my grandma did as well, or during the time that I was like yapping with my grandma, or my grandma was yapping in the background and I thought you couldn't hear her. I'll count those attempts. I'll let you guys know the final number in the description. But yeah. All right. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. It's been fun. It's been real. I'll see you on the next one. Peace out. And like and subscribe. Nah.